Ladies and gentlemen, in wake of various macroeconomic data releases in the last 3 days, PPI, CPI, unemployment claims, Bitcoin has basically been in a market environment that has allowed it to move upwards. I use those words very specifically. It was consolidating within a triangle formation, basically waiting for those releases to come in. And the market participants, and just humanizing that for a second, market participants were waiting for the go-ahead. And the go-ahead came. The data releases came in okay. We saw positive PPI, slightly negative unemployment claims, and CPI was exactly where expected. And we've seen a little bounce here. Now, that bounce isn't unexpected. We've got support all over the $107,000 region, bull market support band. Horizontally speaking, that's where we originally found resistance in late 2024. Even from a volume profile perspective, we can see the volume profile spiking in that region around 107K. It's not surprising to see a bounce from that region. And now we are moving upwards towards the resistance zone at $118,000. And I've said over and over again, I think $118,000 is the level that matters from a short-term perspective. Conquering 118 will get us back above this line right here in white, which is actually not just any random line. It goes right backwards to a 2017 bull market all-time high. Cuts across 2021. You can see it causing a rejection on Bitcoin actually that led to this correction in the first place. Okay, getting back above that line is absolutely critical, and getting above the back of that line happens at 118,000, as well as getting above the POC on the visible range volume profile as well. So 118K is very much the upside target, and Bitcoin looks like it's heading towards that upside target, although we're not in the clear yet. There's a lot of short-term analysis we can do in a future video. I really want to discuss now the bigger picture, the macro scenarios we have lying forward. There's 3 distinctive scenarios that lie ahead of us on Bitcoin. One of them is this. One of them is that was the top, and we go downwards from here on a macro scale into a bear market. The second macro scenario is we top out in around October as the 4-year cycle expects. And the third scenario is we break all of that and continue upwards into 2026. These are the 3 possibilities that lie on the table here. And all of them should be provoking a unique reaction by us, the market participants. So I'm going to go over those scenarios and go over our reactions to them, what they should be in my view. Before we go any further here, I think I've set up the topic quite nicely. I want to check out the Bitunix Exchange just for 30 seconds. It's global, non-KYC. You can sign up from anywhere in the world with no restrictions on any countries or regions. You don't need a VPN. This is all very rare stuff nowadays with major exchanges. On top of that, it's never been hacked before. It hasn't had a single security breach in its 4.5 years on the market. Again, very rare for a major exchange. Being a major exchange, it's got everything you would expect on a major exchange, right? All the trading pairs, the very low trading fees, and with my referral link down below, if you click that link down below to sign up, you'll get access to this exchange with a permanently attached 15% trading fee discount on every single buy and sell you make. So use that link down below to sign up, get that discount, help out the channel, and help out yourself. Guys, thank you. Check that link out. Let's get into the content. So actually perfectly primed for this question, which is, what scenario will be true? Scenario 1, the top's in already. Scenario 2, we top out in October as the 4-year cycle will expect, or around October, I should say, give or take a few weeks. And scenario 3 is we continue into 2026. And we've actually done a poll just about 5 days ago here with 1,400 votes, which gets your guys' opinion on this. 46% of you think we'll see a regular 4-year cycle top around October. Possibly pushing into November. 39% of you, right, the close minority, suggest we'll go into 2026, and then only 15% are actually saying the top is in. So the vast majority of you guys, 85% of you guys, think we will go higher. It's just a matter of how much higher and how much longer we will go. And the bulk of you think, it's going to be a regular 4-year cycle, but a significant minority say it's going to be an extension. And I agree with you guys. I don't think the top is in yet. I think that would be very shocking considering where the macroeconomy is at, where the S&P 500 is at, where Bitcoin's at. And my opinion on that is very unlikely to change unless we do see a breakdown from something like 107,000. I think this recent bounce from 107K is confirmation that Bitcoin's probably not done yet. Again, I want to see a 118K break for full confirmation and clarity there. And I'm not buying here, actually. I'm waiting for that 118K breakout to get overly aggressive again on the buys. So there is a degree of caution that I'm having here in the short-term level, but just maintaining my macro level bullishness, I think is necessary, considering we are in a macro upwards trend. We held that macro support zone, we didn't lose it. So I think it's a little bit ridiculous to be flipping bearish this soon. If you catch us below 107,000, that's a different story, but we're not there yet. That's the fact. And so I do think that the top is unlikely to be in at this point in time. With the data we currently have, I think it is unreasonable to claim the top is in. Yes, there are threats, but none of them have been realized. And this kind of leads me to the answer about the first scenario. The first scenario is the top is in, and if the top is in here, again, given the fact that I'm still macro bullish, I actually don't think there's enough evidence to say it is, and therefore I would be demanding more evidence. And that more evidence, in my view, would come and start from a breakdown of 107,000. If $107,000 breaks, that would prompt a reaction, right? And that's my reaction to the first scenario. In the first scenario, that the top is already in, that we've seen the bull market top, and it was here at 124,000. My reaction to that would only come at a breakdown of 107,000. Okay, that's the zone I think Bitcoin needs to break in order to validate, or even start to validate, a top at 124. Until that occurs, I really don't see any strong evidence that scenario one has been confirmed. So in terms of an early top, in terms of a top at 124,000, I don't think that scenario is in play. And I think that in order for that scenario to become in play, a breakdown from 107,000 at a minimum is required. And there's actually an argument to be made that it could be even lower than that. But that's a good starting point. So scenario one, for a reason, there's a good reason 15% of you believe in it and not 50%, right? Because it hasn't been confirmed by the charts yet. Possible, that's for sure. We're not above 118 yet. We're not where we need to be yet on a short-term level, but we're also not necessarily in very treacherous waters at this point either. So again, let's not count our chickens before they hatch. We're not where we need to be, but we're certainly not in any immediate danger. So what about scenario two, which is the regular 4-year cycle top scenario? Well, this one is quite easy to react to. Now, not for the reasons you might think. Now, obviously, 4-year cycle is a date range trend. It's based on many micro trends, and you can look on the left-hand side of the screen here and relate to the color of those sentences, the color of those trends which are outlined there in relation to the color of the date range measurements on the screen here. So, for example, 1,400 days from top to top in red in writing, and you can see the actual measurement in red there on the screen. At 1,400 days. So go ahead and pause the video, take a look at that if you're interested. But basically all of these micro trends come together to give us a pretty good idea about where Bitcoin should be topping according to the cycle. Obviously, there's an entirely different question about whether the 4-year cycle will hold or not, and that will get us into our third scenario. But overall, it's pretty clear that according to the 4-year cycle, the top should be around October, right? So let's say late September, October, maybe into mid-November, somewhere in that region is where the 4-year cycle expects the top to be. Now, in terms of how we react to that scenario, it's very clear. We don't need to just sell blindly in October just because the 4-year cycle says the top will be there. Because first and foremost, of course, the 4-year cycle could be wrong. It's not a guaranteed thing. It's not a sure thing. But second of all, the last leg of the bull market is generally the most explosive. And so if you sell blindly going into October, you could miss the last 2 weeks of the moves, which are generally the most aggressive. And you're missing quite a lot, especially when it comes to the altcoin market. And the altcoin market, by the way, generally runs a bit faster and a bit longer than the Bitcoin market. So, selling blindly in October on altcoins is actually a horrible idea. What you'd want to be seeing in order to sell, just like any other market environment, is a breakdown, right? You don't sell randomly at any given date just because the cycle says so. You sell when there is weakness that is shown around that date, and that validates the cycle as potentially being correct, right? So it's actually very clear, really. You're just waiting for a breakdown like any other period in the market environment, but this time a breakdown coming in October is very, very likely to be a regular 4-year cycle top, right? So you can be a bit more confident about the future direction in that breakdown. Now, what about the third scenario? And the third scenario is, what if we extend into 2026? Well, the good news about trusting the 4-year cycle, the good news about scenario two, is your reaction in scenario two kind of lends itself to leaving yourself open to profiting if scenario three occurs. So I'm not sitting here saying we should sell in October blindly. And in not saying that, in saying we should hold until there's weakness, I'm also inadvertently saying that if scenario three plays out, if we do extend into 2026, you will be able to take advantage of that because you wouldn't have sold blindly based on a date. Right, if we do extend into 2026, if the cycle does progress, if we break above channels like this one here on the screen, which is based on angles and do something we've never done before, we break above the Powerwall chart centerline, which has been pinning down Bitcoin for resistance for over 18 months, Bitcoin will have a massive momentum shift to the upside that could take it well beyond October this year. And in trusting the cycle, quote unquote, you won't be selling blindly in October. You'd only sell if there was weakness in October. And of course, if Bitcoin's going to extend into 2026, there won't be weakness in October. So you just continue holding and continue to reaping the rewards in scenario 3. So just to recap here, if this video has made sense, and make sure it does, right, in the recap. Scenario 1 is that Bitcoin has already topped. I don't see enough evidence of that yet to prompt a reaction. A reaction to a potential scenario 1 would be reacting upon a breakdown of 107k, right? That's what we need at a minimum there. And that's really crucial at a minimum. It could even be a little bit more evidence than that, but we'll see as we progress here. Ideally, we don't have to face that situation. And my reaction to both scenario 2 and 3 is kind of the same. If we do see a regular 4-year cycle, I'll sell when there's weakness in October. Awesome. And if we don't see a regular 4-year cycle, if we extend into a 2026 bull market, I simply won't sell when there's weakness in October because there will be no weakness in October. We will continue past and up through October. So my reaction is kind of the same there. Overall, I do want to emphasize a lot of this discussion about Bitcoin is, in a way, it's necessary because Bitcoin controls the market, but it's also a little bit weird because I actually don't advocate for purchasing Bitcoin at the moment. Because first and foremost, we're below where we need to be on a short-term level, but just in general, it's pretty clear that Ethereum has been dramatically outperforming Bitcoin for months on end. So it's really Ethereum that I'm looking at mostly for buys, and even the altcoin market is starting to pick up a little bit. But again, I'm using Bitcoin to validate my purchases on Ethereum. So it's stupid buying Ethereum if Bitcoin's on the edge of a cliff. Even though Ethereum might be outperforming Bitcoin and the moves upwards, if Bitcoin collapses, you know Ethereum's going to collapse much more heavily. So that's a whole nother can of worms we can get into in a future video, and we've obviously done that many, many times in the past, and I think you'd be well aware of that. It is important to note Bitcoin on a macro timescale and on a macro structural scale still controls the market. Although we are seeing Ethereum dramatically outperform Bitcoin within macro ranges, if Bitcoin did break down from a macro range, that entire outperformance would be wiped. So it's only really a good strategy to prioritize an Ethereum investment over a Bitcoin investment when Bitcoin is safely secure above the range it needs to be. Now, obviously, right now we are heading there. Right? We get above 118,000, exactly, that's good, right? And obviously, if Bitcoin dropped below 107, Ethereum investments would just be blanket off the table. Basically, it's a long way of saying altcoins and Ethereum are great in bull markets. They're not very good in bear markets, but I'm sure you already know that. So guys, thank you for watching the video. It was a bit of a simplistic one today. Obviously, these scenarios are not super complicated, but they are very important to look out for because we are heading into October very, very shortly. And that's, again, where Bitcoin's 4-year cycle says the top might be. So, if the cycle's right, we could only have a month, maybe 6 weeks left, right? So these are things we need to start discussing very heavily. Thank you for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. A lot of people ask me what exchange I use as a trader. I use the Bitunix Exchange, and I don't have a contract with them. I haven't signed anything with them. I don't work for them. I advertise them on my own accord. With my referral link down below, you can get a 15% trading fee discount permanently attached to your account, as well as up to 8,000 USDT in rewards just by signing up with my link down below. Why would you sign up? Well, it's global, it's non-KYC, it's never been hacked before, it's got all the functions and pairs that you would expect for a major exchange. For that reason, I use it. And I implore you to consider using it as well. Sign up with my link to help out the channel, help out yourself. Cheers.